Thank you so much. Like he said, I'm Mark Madison. I get to be our Director of Community Impact at United Way of Northeast Georgia. In most settings, I'd love to ask all of you who you are, but I'll learn that afterward. Maybe if you can stick around if you have the time, we can get to meet you. And we get to have our 211 program, and I have the privilege of that being the program, one of the programs I get to oversee. So thank you to Leadership-Oconee, thank you to UNG, thank you to the Chamber for pushing this out and for making sure this could happen. Really appreciate it. And as you can see, our numerous breakfast sponsors. It's incredible. Thanks for that. This is a cool slide that I've put in my presentation because this team from Leadership-Oconee did some great stuff going out and making sure people would find out about 211 like you're about to, actually putting feet to the pavement and talking to folks. And we're pretty excited about the traction we can gain there so that more people can start using this service. So I'm excited to tell you more about it now, and you'll see why more and more people could be utilizing this and how it could be useful for you as well. So at United Way, Northeast Georgia, our vision is that every man, woman, and child would have access to quality education, financial stability, and a healthy lifestyle. And that comes through many avenues. But the main way that we do that is we motivate and mobilize resources to meet the highest priority community needs. So you may have heard about United Way. You may know that United Way actually functions in 13 counties around this area. Oconee County certainly being one of those, and one that we're proud to serve. And we operate in those different areas of education, financial stability, and healthy lifestyle. So we fund 26 different partner agencies. We also support different programs like 211 is a Valley Park and Smash Nationwide. And those operate in those different areas because we know and we live in a belief and are couched in the belief that no one agency can do all the things that need to be done in our communities, even in one given city or county, but truly across our entire region. Because if only one organization could do it, we have done it by now. But when we all work together, we can actually make an impact. We can make things change. We can give everyone in our community a different lifestyle, and a different level of care, and a different level of community that we had before. So we fund these different organizations. We operate through different in the community to create collaboratives and different community groups like that. But when those things exist, how do people find out about them? So we can motivate resources and mobilize resources, as in we can get businesses to connect with us, or we can connect businesses to different organizations and make sure that they can get the funding they need and do the work that they need to do. But how do people in need actually find out about those resources? How would you ever know there was a food pantry down the street if no one told you? Does it really get you fed if you've never heard about it? Is it really going to help you that much? What can we do to make that different? So the thing that United Way does to make that different is we have 211. So 211 is a 24/7 helpline that anyone can call any time of day, any day of the year to get connected to community resources. What does community resources look like? They could be a food pantry, they could be a homeless shelter, they could be mental health or behavioral health resources, it could be healthcare resources in general, an urgent care, or somewhere that could give them assistance if they don't have health insurance, or if they do have health insurance, we can't quite afford to have a certain kind of health insurance. So maybe they're looking to get that. They're looking for transportation, or any kind of resource. We have a database of over 200 different resources across our 13-county region you can access by calling us. One of the most exciting things is we continually update that database. We continually update that so that the information they call about is as up to date as we can possibly get it. And a very helpful thing any and all of you could potentially do is if you know of a community resource, you know of a nonprofit, or you know of a government organization that does something that we may or may not know about, is you tell us. And as soon as someone tells us, they reach out to us, we can say, oh wow, we can just put that right in and make sure when they call us at 211, we have that full list. And I'll talk a little more about how that works and what we do as we go through. So 211 provides equitable access to community resources so that no need goes unmet due to a lack of information. Because if we have some lack in our communities because we don't have the resource there, we can address that. But if we actually have the resource, it would be a tragedy for us for needs to go unmet just because someone didn't know about it. So we want to give people as many avenues through which they can access resource information as possible. We do that through 211. One way we do that is you can call 211. And you'll see on your tables, there are these little cards that have a little bit of this information there. And that could be very helpful for you. We'll talk more about those as we go. You can call 211. Like I said, it's 24/7. You can always call. There's always a real person to answer the phone to talk with you. And not only will they talk with you that time, we will follow up with you to see how are things going. And the way that we follow up is actually via text. It can turn into a phone call, but it starts off as a text message. And you can actually send a text message to us at 898-211. In fact, if anyone wants to pull out their phone and try it right now, you're welcome to. Someone will respond to you in less than a minute. I guarantee it. You can also call and text in Spanish as well. We have bilingual call agents always ready to answer the phone and respond to text 24/7 again, every day of the year. So if you text us in Spanish, we will be able to do that. If you call us and you speak Spanish, we can do that. If you call us in the hold time, it's more than 5 minutes, we're gonna say, can we get your phone number? We'll call you back. You don't have to stay on the phone with us. We'll make sure we get back to you. That's rare in and of itself, that we have a hold time that long, but when it does happen, we don't want people to have to sit on the phone for a long time, because we know if they're already having a personal crisis, the last thing they wanna do is sit on the phone another time, and we don't want that to happen. The other way that we let people connect, that people can connect to us, is through our online search engine. So if you were to go to unitedwaynega.org, or if you go directly to this site itself, you can search our database. So that same database that our community connection specialists search when they answer the phone, you have access to as well. You can get on there and you can look by category. Those categories are broken down into a simple way to search. I encourage you to put in your zip code, click through the different categories, and that's going to be the easiest way to search to learn about new things you may not have known about. Because you might go in there, if you just search the name of an organization, then you'll find that one organization. But if you look for a category, you might find 2 or 3 organizations doing the same kind of work. You might find a few new things you didn't know existed, or you didn't know, oh, I didn't know that served Oconee County. I thought that just served Clark County or Barrow County, but actually they do stuff here too. That's great. I'm really glad I found that out. And so, kind of give a little bit of information, a little bit of history. A couple people asked me questions like this earlier, and so we don't always go into this as much, but I think this group is interested, and we've got you here, so we'll tell you. So 211, like I said, it's free to anyone who calls, and it's confidential. We don't ask for any more information than your first name. We don't need personal information. I don't need to know who you are. In the case of mandatory reporting or abuse, that's different, but in 90% of cases, we don't need more than that. We do ask questions about their age, or what assistances they receive, or their household makeup, so that we can see what resources they're eligible for. If you're over 65, there's a lot of other things that might be available to you. If you have children with you, there are new things that might be available to you. But some history about this. Actually, Helplines Connecting People to Social Services really started just next door in Athens. It was serving a 5-county area, and that was a disabilities services hotline in 1983. It was the first time anyone had taken a resource database like that and put it on the internet. That's the real game changer. Sure, people had lists and they had printed directories, but no one had done it online before, and this was actually the first place that they did it. And actually the first place to have a 211, the nationally designated hotline number, was the United Way of Greater Atlanta. And then Athens / the Northeast Georgia region was the 4th. So this is something that's been a part of our community for a very long time. And 211's been around since the late 90s, early 2000s in our area. You've been able to call 211. And at this point, it actually covers 94% of the US. So I heard someone's soon moving to Nashville. So when you move to a new place, if you're looking for resource information, 211's the best place to start looking. And if you're in a different county, like I said, we serve 13 counties. So someone passing through any of these places, they work one place, live another place, 211 is still incredibly useful for them. And in Georgia, we've made the choice to all share one database. What that means is, if you call from one of our 13 counties, you will not only find out about resources in our 13 counties, you'll find out about resources in West, in Gwinnett, or over in Augusta. If you're closer to one or the other, and there's something that just doesn't exist this side, you can find out about those things as well. When things like hurricanes happen or other disasters, someone's evacuating from Savannah, and they call and 211 answers in Savannah or in Macon or in Columbus, then they will actually find out about resources across the state. So that wherever they are going to, they will know that information as well. And that can become pivotal, especially in those situations that you don't think about until it happens. And so that's an incredible resource that we're very grateful to the rest of the Georgia 211s for partnering with us in that, and we get to provide that service to everyone. So what does it look like here in Northeast Georgia? Well, like I already said a lot, I think I already said a lot of this. We'll probably move through it pretty quickly, but we have bilingual community connection specialists. We have over 200 local agencies listed, and what those local agencies end up looking like is more like 600 different service sites. If you'd imagine one agency would be like DFACS, but in our 13 county region, there are 13 DFACS offices, 13 service sites. And that's about how we keep up with it. We actually make sure that our information is updated annually. If you have an organization that's listed, you've recently been getting emails from us because we're doing our first round of annual updates to make sure that we have the correct information. It's an incredibly simple process where we ask those organizations to tell us what's right about their information, so that we make sure when people call us, they get the right information. So we don't want people to learn something that isn't true. We don't want to have outdated information. It's one reason why we don't always print directories, because we know as soon as we print it 1 month away, that phone number is going to be different, or this eligibility requirement is going to change. So we continually update that online. So when people search and when they call and when they text, we've got the right information for them every time. And those text-based follow-ups are incredibly helpful. What we do is someone calls us, then we follow up with them. What was the highest priority need you called us about? They respond 1 for financial assistance, 2 for food pantries, and so on. And then we ask, did you get help with that? And we find out whether or not they got help. If so, could you remember the organization that did that? But the more impactful piece of information that we can get is if they say, no, I didn't get help. And then we ask the question of why. And we've got the top 5 answers for that they can choose from, because free response surveys are there. But we're able to take that information and say, okay, these are the barriers. We know that people didn't get help with that resource because they actually called too late in the month. They called about financial assistance to get help with their utilities, but they called on the 27th, and they had to pay it by the 29th. And as much as an organization might love to help them with that, it's just not possible for them to do it in the way that they would like to do it with integrity in 2 days. So how do we then generate a conversation in the community about, if you need help with this, that's okay. How do we get people the help that they need at the time that they need it? Or maybe it's a food pantry and they didn't have transportation to get to that part of town. So what's the difference? If it happens enough times, is that something to bring to a place and say, could you actually do a food pantry on this side of town? Would that be helpful to a lot of people? It would help this many of our callers if something like that could happen. So we hope to use that kind of information for advocacy and just to paint a broader picture of our community. So at this moment, I'm going to take just a little bit of our time and tell you a few stories about who calls 211 and why they call 211. The first one is Luann and Herbert. Luann and Herbert are a couple. They are 71 and 67, and they live on a fixed income. They're retired, they don't work anymore, and they're just trucking along. And one day, Herbert has a fall. And now their medical bills coming in. And after that starts happening, their utilities start getting a little harder to pay. It's a little bit tougher, but they've never had to make a call like this before. They don't know who to call. They don't know that Action exists. They don't know that any other organizations that do this exist. They've never been connected with anybody like this before, and they're nervous about that. But someone told them about 211. And so they have this one number that they're armed with, and they call 211. They tell that person something like, I've never done this before, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm qualified for this. I probably made too much when I was employed. And we'll have that conversation. I used to answer the phones myself a few years ago, and that was my job. And I've had this call. And someone says, I've never done this before. I've never asked for help. I'm not the person who asks for help. And we always say, we're all the people that ask for help. It's just who you can ask. And we're glad you're asking us. So when they call, we connect them to a resource. We tell them when they're open. We don't want them to have to call somebody on a Thursday when actually they're only open Monday through Wednesday for a couple of hours. That's not uncommon. If any of you work in a nonprofit, you know that's how it is a lot of the time. And so we want to make sure that they get that connection on their first try instead of having to call every number they found out of the Yellow Pages and get told no or have a disconnected number. So Luann and Herbert get the utilities paid, they carry on. Everything's okay. For Jenna, Jalen, and Anaya, it's a bit of a different story, and I've answered calls like this before too. It's been a few years, and Jenna's still in this relationship. And we certainly can't blame her, because this is a really difficult spot to be in. So in a situation of abuse, she and her family, she wants to get her family out of it. And in this moment, she has the courage to do that. She's decided, I'm going to do this for all of our sakes. We want her to have the easiest connection possible. She just has to know 211. She just has to know 898-211. She doesn't even have to call somebody. She can text us about this. We'll connect her to a domestic violence resource. We will make sure she gets there. We will make sure there's a safe conversation that she is in. We will ask immediately once we find out what they're calling about if they are in a safe place. And we'll make sure they get to the place that they need to get to in the way that they need to so that they can get to a point of stability. Our call agents are trained to have these conversations and more. They are prepared to have it handle a crisis situation, and we are all mandatory reporters of abuse. So this is something that we are equipped to handle as well. Folks don't always know that we can do. And then I want to come to Derek and his dog, Tia. So Derek has been sitting outside a grocery store for a while, asking for money or for food, and he does odd jobs, doesn't have a stable job, and he's actually homeless, and his dog Tia is just with him. Because he doesn't want to give up his dog, because most people don't want to give up their dogs, and you can't stay in a shelter with your dog. Or maybe he doesn't really want to go to formal help, because that would be, to him, feels like giving up. But maybe he'd call 211 just to ask about a food pantry. Maybe he'd give us that, and he'd call 211, and we'd help him with a food pantry. So you know what, that was actually helpful. They talked to me, they didn't judge me. Maybe I'll call them again and ask about this job situation. Maybe they can help me with that. And we'll connect them to a job training resource. We have a lot of repeat callers. And it's not necessarily because they didn't get help, it's because they did get help. And now they trust us. And now maybe they'll trust the other resources in our community. And now we've got something going. And maybe Derek can get to a point where his life is stable. And he can get to a point where he is working and he can get his own place. And he's at the point where he will ask for help. And that's an incredible thing, because a lot of people, and really the point of 211 is a lot of people raise their hand and say, I want to help. We want to make sure that those in our community that need that help know who they are and can see those hands raised. That's what 211 does. So that's who calls 211. Just a few to run through a few of the things I may have missed in that list. Help with food, community clinics, any government assistance information. So if you don't know how to get signed up for a certain kind of assistance, we can get you to the right place. Transportation, health insurance, job training, you can read. Donation pickups is one, and volunteering is another. But people don't always know about 211. So if you're looking for a place to volunteer, or you actually have something that you'd like to donate, we can help you connect to an organization that not only takes donations, but could potentially even pick them up. Now, it's not available everywhere, but in a lot of places, I believe. In fact, here, it's in our top 5 calls from Oconee County, is people wanting to donate something, and asking who would actually come pick it up. So that's a very helpful resource for different groups of our community. And so if you're looking to volunteer, you can also call 211. And then we're getting incredibly close. Is this readable to any of you? Let's hope. I actually have physical copies that I didn't put on your tables. They're still in my bag. I'll give you before you. But I'll just tell you generally what this says. This is our annual report from 2018's calls. And essentially what it's telling you is we took about right under 6,000 calls, answered about 850 texts. And that's not just individual texts, that's text conversations. We count every whole conversation we have with an individual phone number. And then we had over 6,000 searches online. Again, that's not just someone accidentally landed on our website. They went to our website and they searched it. And they found out some resource that they needed, and they were able to do something with that information. We know that our top 5 presented needs when they called were food pantries, financial assistance, community shelters, job search placement, and community clinics. A lot of those are things we can actually help with. A lot of those are things we have resources for. That's an incredible thing. Certainly, there's more we could be doing in those areas. There's more that we could be doing on the preventative side of that. And I'm so glad people are calling about job search and placement, because that helps us then to get to the problem of financial assistance. We can actually figure these things out if that's where we're starting. And that's great news to me. That's new for us in the past few years, but it's this year from previous years. So when Northeast Georgia calls, then we connect. And like you can also see that about 40% of the folks who call us don't have health insurance. Only about 40% are unemployed. That actually means that the majority of the people who call us are employed, do have jobs, are trying to make it, and trying to make that thing happen. How do we rally around those people and give them support? We hope we can give them an option through 211. And then the things that we do to connect people, in our follow-up calls we always ask, would you recommend 211 to a friend or family member in need, or someone else who needs it? 90% of people we followed up with, and that's including everybody who didn't get help and did get help, still said yes, 211 was helpful for me. Because they talked to me when no one else would. Because they gave me information that I did not know before, or potentially, like these 80% of people, they did find a thing that could help me out. Because we saw financial assistance for the past few years as one of the most commonly unmet needs, we partnered with Publix and the ARC to provide financial assistance to folks who were working. That's an incredible gift from Publix Foundation, or Publix Charities, allowing us to do that. And they asked that a big chunk of their corporate gift United Way be used for that exact purpose, because they see the need among working people to make ends meet sometimes. That's a very helpful thing we were able to do last year. It actually helped 51 different individuals connect with that kind of help, specifically through that program. And 80% of the people who called us, there was a resource for them. So when they call us, we had somebody say, you can go here, you can connect to this. There is a next step for you, and this is what it is. And really the best thing I can tell you about 211, and the reason you've got these little cards on your table is so that when you meet somebody in need, or you meet somebody, or you know someone, or you work with people who might need a hand up, and it doesn't have to be someone who's homeless or in significant poverty, it could be someone who has a difficult situation. You can give them their next step, and that's 211. That's what we do. If you have any questions for me, I would love to answer them now.